Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Corruption is one of the most damaging problems that Zimbabwe has faced since independence. And in the case of Zimbabwe, corruption is permeated into every corner of society. ZANU-PF specifically has used its power, position in office to loot, and has used the proceeds of the looted wealth to corrupt everybody in society, from the police, the army, the judiciary, the ZEC, and now to the opposition itself. This has been a serious problem because this is at the heart of, if we're ever going to change, how can we do so if all the key players in the process are all in ZANU-PF's deep pockets? Here is an audio that has been taking the rounds of Chamisa joking about corruption and making deals with Mnangagwa. According to one source, Jealous Mawarire, Mnangagwa paid Chamisa a cool $20 million to lose the 2023 elections. Let's just listen to the video clip and then we can discuss it.
Problem and mkoma kana akangobudawo zvakanaka ari mkomana uyatigara mkomana akabuda zvakanaka mkoma chitake zaidira handina matebho mena ndima muchidya ndodya sei madyira aya hasi right ngatingodya mbisi nanga ari pachambura akati muchidya ndikati no mukoma wangu ine munhu ane mukoma wake chero tikapokana chero tikaita sei but tinoonesa parinana problem and mukoma kana akangobudawo zvakanaka ari mukomana uyatigara mukomana akabuda zvakanaka mukoma chitake zaidira madyiro handina matebho mena ndima muchidya ndodya sei madyiro aya hasi right.
This is really tragic. The primary purpose of the opposition was to implement democratic reforms to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections and thus put an end to this curse of rigged elections and bad governance. And now the nation is learning that those who they entrusted the task of implementing those democratic reforms have been negotiating secretly with ZANU-PF and bribed to do nothing. This is truly sickening. Benjamin, what do you think?
Good day to you and good day to our viewers. Thank you for joining us. The worst part is, we have been speaking about, why are the opposition very much willing to participate in rigged elections, knowing fully well that they will lose. And, the worst part is we have been insulted and we have been talking about this. And now here is a concrete evidence to show that, the opposition, particularly Chamisa and Mnangagwa, had a deal broken between the two on how to share the spoils of war. It's sickening, like you said, to say, the one party is supposed to be the change that, people so much, desire, only now to find out that, they are in bed together with, the problem, which is ZANU-PF. It's really, really sad that, 25 years in, people still do not realize that this is what is going on. It's all about greed, greed, greed.
Well, I think what most people are forgetting to remember here is that even without this audio, there has been evidence all along that MDC Triple C as an OPF Team B in all but name. How else can you explain why the MDC leaders failed to implement even one token reform during the GNU of 2008 to 2013, when they had the golden opportunity to implement the reforms? They failed to implement even one token reform. The evidence is there. Mugabe bribed the MDC leaders with the trappings of high office, and they forgot about the reforms. ZANU-PF cronies themselves boast about it. When they were asked during the GNU, why is MDC failing to implement reforms? They openly boasted. MDC they'll never implement any reforms. And lo and behold, after 5 years of the GNU, not even a token reform was implemented. Chamisa has been participating in these post-GNU elections, knowing fully well that the process is flawed, fully well that by participating is giving ZANU-PF legitimacy. David Coulthard has admitted this in his book. So this audio and the statement by Jealous Mawari that Chamisa was paid $20 million to participate in 2023 elections to give ZANU-PF legitimacy and victory should not come as a surprise. Ben, do you seriously think that people should be surprised by this revelation?
You know, a lot of people had put, trust in Chamisa, and still a lot of people have their trust in Chamisa. For a lot of people, he represents the change that they so much desire. So I would say a lot of people are actually surprised, and a lot of people are not willing to accept that this is what is going on, that the sabbatical has turned out to be a well-paid vacation. This is what it is. And the other sickening thing is a lot of people have always been saying, let us win these rigged elections and talk about the reforms after. How do you then talk about the reforms when you have a character like this? I mean, this, if you had any iota of doubt, it should be put to rest now. Continuing to defend, to say Chamisa is still the hope that we so much desire, would be madness, nothing short. I mean, what will move somebody, after you have had concrete evidence? I would I would say, okay, fine, because there was, no really tangible evidence of them conniving together, except, the wise that could, put one and two together. This is now the evidence that was needed to put anything beyond reasonable doubt. Those that refuse to see, I'm afraid to say, they are beyond, redemption. They they have given up their right as human beings to think, to see, and to envision.
It is sad that the people of Zimbabwe, in my view, will listen to this audio and it will be water off a duck's back. In other words, it will mean nothing. They'll listen to it, shrug their shoulder, and it's business as usual. This is the tragedy of Zimbabwe. We have an electorate that has not taken the problems the nation is facing with the seriousness and urgency the matter demands. We have got overwhelming evidence that the opposition, for all their pretensions, have long stopped doing things for the ordinary people, caring about the ordinary people, implementing the democratic reforms, which, as far back as the late 1990s, the nation had identified as the prerequisite for free, fair, and credible elections. The opposition named their party the Movement for Democratic Change to answer that very crying need in the nation, the need to have democratic change to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections. But ever since they got into power, the opposition, ZANU-PF has taken advantage of their naivety and greed to bribe them so that now ZANU-PF is the one dictating what they should and should not do. The people themselves have been slow in accepting that political reality. And hence the reason why the people have continued to elect the corrupt, incompetent opposition. And the nation has paid dearly for it. It is not so much the amount of money, the US 20 million, that people should be surprised about. Mnangagwa has been dishing out money as if there's no tomorrow. For the 2023 elections, Mnangagwa paid, many people will believe, as much as 5 billion US dollars in bribes to the various individuals, from Povo buying them the fish and chips and passing them from one rally to another, to the chiefs and headmen buying them motorcycles and twin cab trucks, respectively. Church leaders, some got vehicles, some got us farms and other assets. MPs and senators, they were paid US $40,000 in November 2022, supposedly a housing loan. which everybody knew was totally meaningless. And then the deputy ministers, 230,000 US dollars. The ministers themselves, $500,000 US dollars. And a few weeks before nomination day, judges were paid 400,000 US dollars. So this payment to Chamisa of US 20 million should not come as a surprise. This is a regime that has been spending money hand over fist to buy votes, to stay in power at all costs. What we have here is an opposition that is now so deeply in the pockets of the ruling party that we, the people, owe it to ourselves to wake up to that reality and find more competent opposition leaders. That is at the heart of the argument here. Ben, do you want to give your closing remarks?
In closing, I would want to say, for those that had failed to see, what was going on behind the scenes, this is the wake up call that I think you all needed. This is the evidence that shows that the current opposition that we have, or the crop of opposition that we have, is useless. That is, I will be direct, is useless. They are in bed with ZANU PF. They are compromised. They are talking about how to share the spoils of war, regardless of free, fair, or credible elections. They don't worry about that as long as ZANU PF pays them for playing their part as the so-called opposition, thereby giving the whole, election credibility, and making Zimbabwe look as a democracy. So now, my urge to everybody, those that knew and those that didn't know, now we all know. We need to fix this mess. And as I've said, the only way to fix this mess is by implementing the recommendations that SADC drew up or, wrote for us. Not just SADC, but all observer missions that were to do with the 2023 election. They saw irregularities. Those irregularities need to be fixed. People may say the opposition will still participate. The opposition, yes, will participate, but you vote. And if we don't vote, there is no democracy. So it's still with us. The next move has to come from us. Thank you.
I'll just play a quick video clip of Chamisa insisting that he has got all the V11 for the 2023 elections. In reality, he did not. He was just lying, just as much as he was lying that he had plugged all the vote rigging loopholes for the 2023 elections.
We reject this sham result and flawed process based on the disputed figures. We have our V11s. I'd asked our teams to bring those V11s. I'm not so sure if they're here so that you would see them. We have brought V11s from across the whole country, and those V11s are going to be the basis of our assertion. We have won this election.
I repeat, Chamisa did not have the V11 forms. He was just lying. Here is one occasion where somebody took Chamisa to task for his lying.
ende patakasangana na Trump akatibvunza naye akomana mari yamuri kuda kuti nyika ifambe imari.
Serious questions were raised about your behaviour in Washington, D.C. You did see some senior people on Capitol Hill, some Congress people, but you also claimed that you'd seen Donald Trump. You claimed you had a conversation with him in which you said he asked you how much you needed to move the country forward. You told him $15 billion, and he said to you that he would provide the money if you won the election. That was not true, was it?
Sangana na Trump akatibvunza naye akomana mari yamuri kuda kuti nyika ifambe imari.
It was not true that you'd seen Donald Trump and that Donald Trump indicated to you that he would provide, if you won the election, $15 billion.
All those statements were said by other people, not what I said.
Kasangana na Trump akatibvunza naye akomana mari yamuri kuda kuti nyika ifambe imari.
Well, no, because there is a video which shows you at a rally in January back home in Zimbabwe saying that Donald Trump had pretty much promised you $15 billion. To be clear, because some people in Zimbabwe are still confused, you're now telling me you did not meet Donald Trump.
We did not.
Zimbabweans have to wake up to the reality that the opposition, as much as the nation entrusted them the task of implementing the democratic reforms to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections, the opposition now have their own agenda. Mnangagwa have bribed them to continue pretending to the nation that they are committed to implementing reforms and delivering free, fair, and credible elections. Whereas in reality, they are now in ZANU-PF's deep pockets. Question now is, what are we going to do about it? If we go into the 2028 election with the same naivety that has been shown so far, people will participate in those elections, give ZANU-PF political legitimacy, and perpetuate our own suffering. That is the reality. Thank you very much, Ben. And those of you who were able to join us, thank you again. You can join us in an hour's time, 7 o'clock UK time, 8 o'clock Zimbabwean time, when we'll want to discuss another topic about Zimbabwe. Have a good day.